The following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
Yeah!
Go Cowboys!
Let's go, baby!
Are you ready for a break?
Yes.
Are you ready for a break?
Absolutely.
Ready for a break?
Yeah, and so much for that.
It's time for The Break on DallasCowboys.com.
We were on the break!
With Ambar Garcia, Bryan Broaddus, Nick Harris, and Derek Eagleton.
It is Thursday, January 2nd, 2025. Welcome to the latest edition of The Break. We are live from the SWBC Mortgage Studios at the store. It is at the Star. We are presented by LG. LG is the world's #1 OLED TV brand for 11 years and counting. See why at lg.com/OLED Evo. It is our first show here of the 2025 year. Still got one game to finish out the 2024 season. That comes up this Sunday. Cowboys will face the Commanders here at AT&T Stadium at noon. But today we'll get you guys a little more prepared for that game. Got a few topics we're going to hit today. We got to talk about Zeke and what seemed to me to be somewhat of a surprise move that the Cowboys made. But we'll talk about that. We'll talk about the Pro Bowl selections. Cowboys got a few guys into the Pro Bowl. See if you guys are surprised by any of the people that were in or that are not in. And then we'll get into the Washington offense. Bryan will have a breakdown. I'm sure Nick's got some thoughts on this team and their offense. Tomorrow we'll talk a little bit more about the defense as we get you guys ready for the game. So let's start with Zeke. We find out, I think it was yesterday. All these days have all run together. Was it yesterday or the day before?
Tuesday.
2 days ago.
Yeah,
find out that the Cowboys were releasing him. And my question, which I think most people know, but I think it's worth a conversation, why now?
Yeah, for Ezekiel Elliott, he sees an opportunity to potentially join a playoff team, and he went to the organization saying, "Hey, can I be released so I can be afforded that opportunity in case it arises?" And the organization chose to let that happen. Not that he had been playing much in the last few weeks anyway. So they released Zeke on Tuesday. He cleared waivers yesterday, and now he's free to sign with any team going into the playoffs. I was trying to think of teams that might be needing a running back in the playoffs. I can't really think
Chargers.
of any. I mean,
Detroit.
You could look at the Chargers, and Detroit was my one thought. If David Montgomery is not as healthy as maybe they anticipate going into the playoffs, and that's maybe their short yardage guy that they could bring in and mix in, but. How confident would another team be based on, the opportunities that he had this year, the reports about him missing meetings and getting left in Dallas during the Atlanta game. I wonder how much that would factor in if he had an opportunity that became serious. But nevertheless, the return for Ezekiel Elliott overall, I think it's fair to say that it was a failure. It didn't quite work out in the end. In the beginning, it looked great. We come out of that Cleveland game. He had 49 total yards in that game. He had the hurdle on the first play from scrimmage. Everyone was like, okay, he might have a little juice, and then that would end up being not only the most yards he would account for the rest of the season, but the most touches he would get the rest of the season. And it just kind of went downhill from there. The running back by committee approach, I wonder how much that factored into him not being able to find his rhythm. I think there's a lot of things you look at, but in all, the number 15 version of Ezekiel Elliott did not work out here in Dallas.
Is this the first NFL version of the transfer portal we've heard of?
Well, Dalvin Cook last year.
Yeah.
Are you talking about like getting released right before the playoffs?
Yeah.
Yeah, Dalvin Cook last year.
Or there's a side of me that I think that maybe we got some back channeling going on here. Do you think somebody came in with Rocky Arsenault and
Let hey, if he was available.
Now the guy's gone, I could say this, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So maybe some back channeling, like someone saying, hey, if you could get him released, we might take a look at him, that kind of thing, clear waivers, that kind of thing. I think there's a couple of things that are going on here too. I think that maybe, and this is the conspiracy theorist of me right now, probably irresponsible. I kind of feel like that maybe that they were talking about that they were going to play Deuce Vaughn in this game, and maybe he was going to be inactive. And you remember what happened when they talked about him being inactive in the Atlanta week? Yeah. Everything kind of went to hell. Mm-hmm. He's like, and then it all came out about the missed meetings and things like that. All of a sudden when he's not going to be active, I don't want to be here anymore. Go ahead and release me. It's all nice and tidy and get on with a playoff team and all that. Great. But if there was some back channeling going on, you don't ask for your release this late in the year unless you got something going, my opinion.
Yeah. So that still is a game check you're missing, right?
Yeah, exactly.
If you're not with somebody else.
So there's, maybe the Cowboys can find out there was some tampering going on here. Again, it's Bryan Broaddus, 105.3 The Fan, not the Dallas Cowboys. It's my opinion. Sorry, okay? But yeah, so the maybe some back channeling going on. We'll see. But maybe also too that they got to the point where they were going to play. They wanted to see Deuce Vaughn play, or they wanted to see somebody else play, and Ezekiel Elliott wasn't going to be active this game.
Hunter Lippy 15 carries.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying, though, it could be a situation where they did not want to go through what they went through Atlanta week. Yeah. And they're saying, let's just move on, but it sounds really nice and tidy that we'll get them an opportunity to get on with a playoff team,
One thing that I
just
think
me. Sorry.
jumps out to me is I think this year we've seen a resurgence of running backs around the NFL who were guys that
take care of themselves.
In the second, third contracts, and they are producing really well for teams this year. Do you think that Zeke here? Do you think that his lack of production here was about other things, whether it was the offensive line, whether it was the opportunity? Do you think there were other things that were factored in, or do you think it's just he just doesn't have what he once had?
Go ahead.
No, really, please.
There were multiple factors that I think played into Zeke not being nearly as effective as even anyone anticipated coming into the year. But I think it starts with him off the field. I think it starts with what happened off the field, him missing meetings, him losing support in the locker room. I mean, it starts there, and then that stuff fizzles into when he actually does show up to the meetings, when he actually does get onto the field. You look at that 49ers game, and when Rico Dowdle was ruled out for the illness really late, Ezekiel Elliott starts in that game. He didn't look comfortable the entire game. I mean, you had Dalvin Cook getting worked in with carries as well, but when Zeke had an opportunity, it didn't work out because of, in my opinion, of what had already been established off the field.
No, I think you're absolutely right about that. I mean, there's the guys you're talking about. We got Derrick Henry. They give him the award after a game the other day, like the red velvet cake, and he's like, not interested, thanks. There's a guy that's kind of conscious of what he puts in his body, probably asleep, probably spends a lot of money to take care of himself so he can play at a very, very high level. Zeke reminds me of me. When I was Zeke's age, I had a great time in life. I absolutely had a great time in life, and a lot of crazy things happened in my life at that time when I was his age. So I understand it. I got some Zeke in me.
Was that the trip to New York with Bill Parcells?
No, no, that was a different trip. But I'm serious. There's guys have fun in life. He had a lot of fun, and I think that finally caught up to him in a lot of ways. And so to me, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised that it didn't work out. I would be really interested if we could do this. If Mike McCarthy, if you could get Mike McCarthy on the side and ask Mike McCarthy this question. Did you really want Ezekiel Elliott here? I wonder what Mike McCarthy would say. And maybe you have to get Mike McCarthy if he's no longer here, you get him off at the side at the combine or something like that and ask him that question. But I really, really wondered if this was a front office driven thing. And then, and Mike was forced to, the San Francisco game. Okay, we're gonna load Zeke up here. I'm gonna show you, what that's all about. So I think from the jump, just my opinion again, that maybe there was a divide between the front office and the coaching staff on really what the vision was or what they wanted to do with Ezekiel Elliott. And it never, for the entire season, never became anything of any substance.
I think right now, in my opinion, it would be very, very difficult to really evaluate Zeke's position at the moment and whether or not he would have been good and productive for this offense. Even though he did get some chances at the beginning of the season, we saw what the running game was there. It didn't matter who was touching the ball and who was running. It just wasn't working with what the offensive line was doing for you. So right now, I do think if given the opportunity in a better situation somewhere else, I can see him being productive, still be productive. I think he needs a change of scenery for sure, because you can see how off the field he wasn't the same Zeke. Like he wasn't the same goofy, happy guy walking around. He didn't seem happy being here. And when you hear about missing meetings and things like that, it's very unlikely. it's not like Zeke, like the Zeke we used to know that was here. And we saw, even though he had that moment, his crazy little moments here and there at the beginning of his career, he's trained it up really quick. And he was a leader in there in the locker room. He always stood in front of the media and always talked, and he took care of business. He was practicing and did what he needed to do. So whatever the reason may be, and I saw it at training camp when he got there, he was putting in the work and he was like focused and kind of tunnel vision, but it didn't pan out for him here. So I hope that he can find that happiness again, because you see it in a player. You see when someone has success and then all of a sudden they're not having that kind of same success or attention. And not that he's looking for the attention like that, like in front of us or any like that, anything like that. I don't know how to describe it, but you see when someone's demeanor just changes. So hopefully he is able to find another team and just have a second chance, a third chance, let's say, because this would be what? He was here in Dallas, went to New England, and then came back. Yep. So what would that be?
Fourth chance.
Fourth chance?
Yeah.
I don't know. I still wish him good luck and well, because we know he deep down is a good guy.
Yeah.
So
let me ask you this. This is a bigger picture question based on what he's done here, because I think there was a time, I think people quickly forget how good he was in 2016 and then those subsequent years. He was really, really
Saved
good for this
Dak.
team. Yeah. That all being said, do you think Ezekiel Elliott is a Ring of Honor caliber player?
I had this conversation with someone a couple days ago. The thing is, if you get him in, it opens up a really much larger or conversation about a lot of other players around him. Because if you put in Zeke, then you're putting in Dak, who may or may not be worthy of that by the end. And if you're putting in Dak, you're putting in Romo. And if you're putting in Romo, you're putting in Des Bryant. And if you put in, it's kind of a domino effect from there. But if we're talking about Zeke in a vacuum, I don't know. That's tough.
It's hard.
Tough.
I think he's one of those guys that you look at his production, and when he was good, man, he was really, really, really good. But the longevity just wasn't there.
Dorsett is in, right?
Yeah.
He is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
well, how many years do you need? How many
I don't
years
know
of
that
success?
honestly, I don't know that there is. I don't know that there is a certain number, because
Charles Haley
didn't. Yeah, he didn't have a large body of work here. Now you look at his overall career between here and San Francisco. He obviously had a pretty decently long career, but he didn't have a long time here in Dallas. But then you look at somebody like Deion. Deion, I think, had more years here than Charles Haley did. I think.
Oh, and Deion's not in the ring, is he?
No, he's not. I want to say Deion's
that.
like 5 years here, 6 years here. Brian, you remember?
Oh man.
Nah, we can look it up. But
I don't know what I had for breakfast.
the whole point I'm making
No,
is
I
think he is a really, really tough one, because at the height he was as good as anybody that's done it here, absent obviously Emmitt Smith and probably Dorsett. But other than that, like I just think he had a really great couple, 3-4 years, and then it just kind of went away. And I just wonder if that's enough to get him in.
Yeah, if we're talking offensive rookie of the year, knocking on the door of MVP a couple of seasons,
Yeah.
2-time rushing leader, that's tough to do. I don't know. That'll be an interesting conversation one day. If it were me, I'd put him in.
Yeah,
That's just me, though.
I don't think he's Hall of Fame, but I think Ring of Honor, he has a case. Like
Do you
there's
put
a
the
case.
15 on there, too? Like Kobe gets the 24 and the 8?
Yeah.
The question that I would ask is, I don't know if he was as good as Calvin Hill was. And I'm old enough to watch Calvin Hill play.
I never watched Calvin Hill, but I knew of him, but I didn't watch him.
Calvin Hill was a big part of some championship teams here.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you think about, of course, you're going to think about Emmitt Smith. You're going to think about Tony Dorsett. I personally, I don't think DeMarco Murray gets nearly enough credit for being a good back here.
Mm-hmm.
And so, am I saying that Zeke's better? Is you look at DeMarco Murray, sure. But I mean, Calvin Hill to me was was when you go back in the 70s and watch him play, and they played a shorter schedule, not a lot of teams, but every time the Dallas Cowboys needed a big game, Calvin Hill delivered. And so that's kind of where I'm at. I think the backs from the previous era, the 70s, the 80s, and then into the 90s, I think those backs are pretty special. But you guys did a special on Marion Barber.
Mm-hmm.
You guys did a special. You've seen some really quality backs go through here Zeke, he's kind of probably the head of that group, but I don't know if I could put him ahead of Calvin Hill in my mind. And I'm the oldest one here and saw Calvin Hill play, so I can say that.
Yep. But that's fair. And I do think there'll be, obviously, the interesting part is there's only a one-person jury that decides Ring of Honor.
One-person jury?
Jerry. Right, yeah. And we know he's very fond of him as a person. And I don't know if that colors the decision or not. I have no idea. Only Jerry knows that. But we know he's very fond of Zeke, so we'll see what that turns out to be.
I mean, we saw Jerry's statement that came out.
Yeah.
But do you think, given what has happened behind the scenes, behind the curtains in this couple of months that Zeke has been here, do you think the relationship has changed or been damaged a little bit or anything?
What I know of Jerry, I doubt that very
Not with the
seriously.
front office, maybe with the coaches.
It can't be any worse than some of those guys that are in the Ring of Honor, and that's not to discredit anybody that is in the ring. There's been off the field issues with a couple of those guys as well, and I don't think a couple of them weren't as bad as Zeke's.
My thing is, like, you just look at Jerry and you look at his players. I think Jerry's very, very, very loyal. And those players that are his guys, they're going to forever be his guys. I don't care what happens. Because you look at somebody like Dez. Dez has a lot of problems with a lot of people that came through this building while he was here. You open the question about what he thinks about Jerry Jones, and it is like he just loves the man. And it's vice versa. Jerry just loves him. And it was some of those same things that we've kind of been hearing about, the missed meetings, all that. That was some of the same stuff that was happening with Dez back in the day. But the relationship is there between he and Jerry. It might not be there with anybody else in this building, but between him and Jerry, that relationship is there. So I feel like Jerry he keeps the relationship with his guys, and it just, for whatever reason, it stays, regardless of what the player goes through. There are a lot of guys around here who have had careers and have had a lot of problems off the field. Some of those guys are still working in this building because Jerry just has loyalty for him.
Yeah.
I just, I think if I got this right, if you go in the stadium, you have the pre-1989s on one side of the stadium and the post-1989s on the other side of the stadium.
I never noticed that.
So, there's a distinguishing line there that, that you can say, okay, well, and then, okay, you got guys that, like you say, the Romos, the Des Bryants, the Jason Wittens. I mean, there's Jerry and them done a nice job getting players to come through here. It just hasn't turned into the championships that you've seen on that opposite side of the stadium. You got Aikman and Emmett and Michael, of course, but everybody else that goes in now with that group on that side, that's not going to be a Super Bowl likely Super Bowl winning player that goes up in there. And now it turns into Nick is now watchdogging. When he goes to a stadium, he goes, look at these Ring of Honor dudes.
Carson Palmer in Arizona is still just mind-boggling.
Derek loves doing that. He loves every time we go to a stadium looking at who's in the Ring of Honor.
Who's Frank Tripucka here? Who's this guy, Frank Tripucka? What did he do? So, you start watchdogging the other team's Ring of Honor, and then it gets you to appreciate the Ring of Honor you see 10 times a year, when you go into that stadium.
Yeah.
All right. I know we got to go to break. Who are some guys that are due, though? Witten. Is it just Witten? Is that the only home run for sure will be up there one day?
Of the time that I've been here, obviously DeMarcus is already in.
Yeah.
I think Witten definitely gets in. Then it becomes a situation of, like you said, if you start letting in
the Romos,
the Dez, like those were really good players, and I think they were fan favorites.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you put them in the same category of the triplets, or of those guys that were great and they won championships,
or even Drew Pearson in the sense of being in '88.
Yeah, that's really just a hard thing when you have a franchise that's won 5 championships. Yeah. Then it's almost like without a championship, it becomes very, very difficult to get into that upper echelon of players, right? And in some franchises where they don't have that number of championships, it's a little easier. And some of those guys who had really great careers can get in because it's like, well, they didn't have championships, but these other people didn't either. So, I just think I think that's a tough one. I look at Witten. Witten is the only one for me that is a slam dunk.
Yeah, I think so.
I don't think there's anybody. Well, I take that back. We're forgetting about the offensive lineman. Zach Martin is a slam dunk.
Yeah,
Tyron Smith is probably a slam dunk.
Yeah, you're right.
We're not talking about the offensive line, but
I'm thinking
those
of like
two
guys that are retired.
Yeah. But those two guys added to Witten, I think those are the 3 players to me that are, I feel fairly certain they're going to end up in the Ring of Honor.
You answer your own question.
What?
Your initial question about Zeke. You just made the perfect argument right there without noting.
No, I think he
Solid
made the
point. I set you up.
But Nick made the point. Like, if you put him in, you got to put in a lot of other guys.
Yeah.
And I think longevity matters. To be honest with you, I think it's why Emmitt Smith is where he is from the standpoint of just how he is recognized. Him obviously being the leader in rushing yards in a career is because of his longevity. Like, he wasn't killing the league his last several years in the league. He just kept doing it, over and over. And there's something to be said for that in a sport where injuries are a part of it. To be able to play that long, especially at a position like that where you're taking hits every play, like I really think there's some value to that. And so I think that's probably why he doesn't end up. But who knows? It's Jerry's call, so only Jerry knows.
It's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
It's funny. I was trying to think of how many Ring of Honor players are not Hall of Fame members. I was thinking Don Perkins is one of them. I know. I don't know if Don Meredith is another one. It's very, very rare.
It's very few.
It's
Mel
very
Renfro's in the Hall of
rare.
Fame, right?
What's that?
Mel Renfro in the Hall of Fame.
I believe so.
Yeah, I think he is. Yeah.
I think that Perkins and Meredith might be the only two.
Tex Schramm.
Tex Schramm's in the Hall of Fame.
He's in the Hall of Fame. Yeah.
Okay.
Gil Brandt's in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah,
I mean, it is a unique group of So now you're going to get into some situations. Witten will be a Hall of Famer. Will Romo? Will others?
And that may be the delimiter.
If your standard is Hall of Fame players and executives, then your list is going to be really, really small from this current group of guys that the Cowboys have.
Is Jerry the only one in the Hall of Fame that's not in the Ring of Honor?
Right now.
Well, the Ring of Honor, I think Darren Woodson's the other one too, by the way. Now I think that Darren Woodson's not in the Hall of Fame, but
that's got to get corrected at some point.
Yeah.
That's got to be fixed at some point. Hopefully this is the year. He's a finalist again.
So there's probably three guys that were not are in the Ring of Honor that are not Hall of Fame members.
Yeah. All right, we're going to take our first break. We will come back. Let's dive into this Washington offense. We'll do that in just a second. This is DallasCowboys.com radio.
Todd thought it would be secure to jog in the cheetah savanna. Todd believed the big cat repellent he bought online was reliable. And now, Todd is trying to be faster than this cheetah that can run 80 miles per hour. But the good news is, Todd has AT&T 5G that is fast, reliable, and secure. And he learned the best thing to do is stop running and toss her the backpack with the beef stew. AT&T 5G. Fast, reliable, secure.
5G requires compatible plan and device. 5G may not be available in your area. See att.com/5G for you for details.
It's the official men's skincare brand of the Dallas Cowboys, Jack Black. And right now, Cowboys fans can get 15% off their $75 order. Plus, because every deal needs a playmaker, your order will include a free 5-piece skincare set and free shipping. The Jack Black Playmaker is 4 of Jack's favorites and a full-sized intense therapy lip balm. Make a play for the Playmaker at getjackblack.com/Cowboys with the code CowboysVIP. That's getjackblack.com/Cowboys with the code CowboysVIP.
Don't put off getting your oil changed, Dallas. Take 5 Oil Change, a proud partner of the Cowboys, is faster than you think. They're so fast, you don't even have to get out of your car. You can take advantage of Take 5's stay-in-your-car 10-minute oil change at any of their locations across the Dallas area. And remember, at Take 5, you stay in your car because they're faster than you think. That means you won't even have time to show off your best touchdown celebration. Take 5, the official oil change of the Dallas Cowboys.
From the field to the festivities, Lucchese embodies the essence of luxury and tradition. Handcrafted with meticulous precision, each pair offers unmatched comfort and style. Stand tall while you're tailgating or cheering in the stands with the Dallas Cowboys collection by Lucchese. Shop the collection today at the Lucchese store at the Star in Frisco or online at lucchese.com. Lucchese, the official boot of the Dallas Cowboys and Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders.
How do you tell the world about all the great gifts in the Yeti store? Let her rip, Troy.
All right, folks, let's get started with the Yeti French Press. Enjoy coffee that stays hot for hours in a French press. 34 ounce for you, 6'4" for the cruise, the Yeti French Press. Up next, waterproof bags. Bags waterproof. Submersible waterproof doubles. Waterproof backpacks. World's mostly water, so get a waterproof Yeti bag. Do I smell something cooking? Oh, new cast iron skillets made to be passed down like Mama's recipes. Take a steak, cornbread, cobbler's pot pie, and potatoes, and next oval with 3 sizes of Yeti cast iron skillets.
Gear, gifts, and product experts. Visit the Yeti store on McKinney Street and at South Lake Town Square today.
Back to the break.
LG OLED. Wait, my thing just messed up. Where is it? Okay, here it is. Sorry, guys. Apologies. It's a new year. Getting ready for this. LG OLED Evo is the best TV in the game, but don't take our word for it. Digital Trends said that LG OLED G4 has the best picture quality they've ever seen. See it for yourself at lg.com/OLED Evo.
Welcome back. We are in the second segment of the break. We're live from SWBC Mortgage Studios at the Star, and this segment's brought to you by blockchain.com. All right, let's talk about the Washington offense right now. They are 5th in scoring. Mm-hmm. They are 4th in total offense. Mm-hmm. They're 16th in passing offense, but they are 3rd in rushing offense.
Thank you, quarterback.
I'm going to take you back to the Cowboys' first game with them, the first matchup this year when they faced them in Washington. How well do you think the Dallas defense matched up against that Washington team in that first matchup?
I felt like it was pretty good. I went back and watched the game just to make sure. And what they did was, I like what Mike did by putting Micah Parsons as a 3 technique. Mm-hmm. And working against Nick Allegretti and Tyler Broaddus and guys like that. So he kind of figured out that those guys were going to struggle a little bit, and they were able to get some pressure that way. Golston did a really nice job off the edge. They were able to kind of create pressures, and then Zimmer really, like I said, he matched it up really good, putting his best players on their poorest blockers when it came. And there were a couple of times, there were a couple of sacks, Nick, and I know you remember this, where Daniels is running outside the pocket, just unload the ball. Instead, he kind of goes out of bounds, and you're like, okay, thank you, sack. No, sack. So, yeah, this crew is hot. If you go back and watch the Atlanta game last week, this crew had problems with blitzing linebackers and then also some secondary pressure, and that's what Zim did also too. Mm-hmm. We saw Wilson, we saw Jordan Lewis rushing and all that. So there was that the mug look, double A gap blitz stuff, where pressure was going to come from, really confused Daniels in that football game. His reads weren't as clear, and I think that you could probably bet that we're going to see Micah Parsons move around, and because they're banged up at right tackle. Andrew Wiley has a growing problem, and so they used 2 different right tackles last week, with Scott and Lucas, and so it really wasn't as a good of a combination for them. Wiley has been really good for them, so keep an eye on that, how that position or how the offensive line works out. But I think Zimmer's going to hunt some matchups here. Brandon Coleman, the rookie, hunt some matchups there. He's given up some sacks. I think we talked about it last time we did this game. That I think that's where things could very well hinge for the Cowboys.
I can almost guarantee leading up into that first matchup with Washington, Micah Parsons went to Mike Zimmer and he was like, "Hey, I got something. Yeah. Line me up over Tyler Broaddus. I know I can beat this guy." Yeah. And I don't know for sure, but I could almost bet on it that is what happened, because you saw him generate interior pressure more in that game than he has in any other game this year. 2 sacks in that game for him, and then like you said, sending pressure from the linebacking core, from the secondary. It can disrupt a rookie quarterback, and you talk about the double mug look as well. We could look at Jaden Daniels, we could look at C.J. Stroud, we could look at Drew Lock, all these young quarterbacks that this defense has gone up against this year. Throwing that double mug disguise on them has given
double
them
A gap
issues.
Look, yeah.
It has given them issues, and so I think you could expect a little bit more of the same here.
Yeah, they had some problems in the Atlanta game as too, and some of the others that I watched. That was blitz pickup with Bryan Robinson. He was getting knocked around a little bit. Bryan Robinson's a good player.
Yeah, he's a bigger back too.
If you remember in the game, first carry of the game against the Cowboys, he got twisted up. Mozzie got in the backfield, and he got twisted up, and it hurt his ankle, and he really wasn't the same player.
Right.
They think they're going to get back. They think that they might get back. Eckler, yeah. So, he's a big part of what they do.
And he did play in that Cowboys game.
He did, and he got a concussion in the game and hadn't played since.
Yeah.
So he's dealing with that. But this team loves to throw the ball down the field, especially with Terry McLaurin. He's going to make plays down the field, and they love to throw screens. Get ready for the wide receiver screens and get ready for the running back screens because they're going to screen you to death to kind of see if they can hold that rush in place.
Yeah, when you talk about the rushing game, Jaden Daniels rushed for 74 yards on 7 carries against the Cowboys. Yeah. No other player gained more than 22 rushing yards that game between Eckler and Robinson.
Right.
How do you think they can better contain Daniels based on what they did in that first game? Or is this a situation where you're like, as long as you stop those other guys, you can be okay with him having some yards as he did in this game where the Cowboys ended up with the win?
You said Eckler?
No, I'm saying, how do you better contain Daniels? Yeah, I'm sorry.
Daniels.
Did I say if I may have?
No. With Daniels, I think it's just sealing the edge. I think it's containing the edge, keeping him in the pocket as much as possible. And I think they did a good job of that in that first matchup. He did get away for a couple of runs, especially there in the fourth quarter where things got crazy. He got away for one. I think of that touchdown drive that they had that led to the Turpin return. I look at that and I see a couple of big Daniels runs, but aside from that, they did a good job keeping him in the pocket, keeping him contained, and they got 4 sacks on him. And it was a really good job by guys like Chauncey Golston, by guys like Marshawn Elam wasn't back for that game. Micah Parsons, whenever he was lined up on the edge, being able to contain the edge and get those tackles moving around.
Yeah, he did a good job.
But I would have to say just continue to contain him. Don't let him go outside of the pocket because that's when he can make things really dangerous. He did that against Philly. Philly didn't do a good job of keeping him contained. And you saw him use his athleticism, not only in scampering away, but also throwing on the run. He's a Heisman winner for a reason. Go Tigers.
Go Tigers.
Quick question. Their position in the playoffs,
they got to win.
Do they have does this game change anything?
They need to win because
what's the scenario?
If they win, they're the 6th seed, which means they go play the Rams. If they lose and Green Bay wins, they could fall to 7. And then that way, Green Bay would be the 6th seed. So they're playing.
So they're in, but they have.
No, I know they're in, but just a position.
They're either going to play the Rams or the Eagles. Yeah. That's why if you listen to Dan Quinn talk, he's adamant about trying to play this game and win.
Yeah.
Because he wants to stay in the 6th seed is what he wants to do.
Yeah.
He would rather deal with the Rams in indoor climate controlled conditions than he would have to make a trip to Philadelphia again.
Yep. And that team playing like they're playing right now.
Yeah. So that's where this is at right now. So they're going to play. They're going to play to try. Now there comes to a level where all of a sudden how much you're willing to play to win. Mm-hmm. What if you get behind and all of a sudden then you start
losing players?
Then you start to lose players.
Yeah.
Then that quickly that playing to win bit turns into no, we're not playing anymore. But he's come out and said he's trying to make sure that seeding is important to him. That he makes sure that his team is seated in the best possible spot. Yeah. And I don't know about you, but I'll take my chances playing the Rams than I would the Eagles.
Yeah.
I'll take my chances.
A healthy Eagles team because they're going to be resting this week. So.
No doubt.
Yeah.
And they're just playing well right now. That's the hard. They are one of those teams that's going to be a factor, I think, in the playoffs. So yeah, if you can avoid playing them the first round, you probably want to avoid playing them that early. What do you guys expect as far as how you or who will be playing opposite Bland? And knowing what you're talking about with McLaurin, is this a situation where
he plays
I know
outside.
they don't do it a lot?
No, he plays outside.
Would you think about having Bland travel with McLaurin just because he's their best receiver by far, and Bland is your best corner by far?
He did last week with Brown.
Yeah,
they finally traveled, but I think it came to a situation where they had 7 corners on IR.
Zacchaeus can play though too for them.
Yeah,
true.
He
had a good game last week.
And Brown, they've got some receivers, and so I mean, to me, it's you're in a bad spot. You're in the bad spot at that cornerback, unless you want to, like we've talked about here for the last several weeks, is if you just say, okay, we're playing Izzy on the outside and we're going to play Lewis on the inside, and occasionally we're going to flip because you're not going to get Terry McLaurin in the slot that much. Mm-hmm. He plays outside primarily. All his routes are on the outside. So, they're going to try and find a way to match him up on whoever your corner is opposite of Bland.
Yeah.
If that's the case, travel him. Travel Bland and just hope to hell that everybody else can hold up.
Yeah.
Man, I'm hoping Keemon Hall is ready to go. I want to see him.
Hamstring,
he did miss
though,
practice.
Right? He missed practice
yesterday.
yesterday, but I'm hoping he's ready to go for this one.
I would love to just see him out there. I just want to see what he can do. I mean, I think he had some moments during training camp in the preseason. It'd be nice just to see what he can do.
Had that pick 6 against Vegas. I remember that one specifically. That's probably the reason he made the team, or made the practice squad, rather. But,
coming off a hamstring doesn't sound very promising for a cornerback.
Especially on this team.
So we're going into 25 with that, huh?
I'm saying,
that's how we're going to start 25?
I get you guys want to be excited about this guy, but I'm saying, that hamstring.
Team 7 and 9. Let us have some joy.
Right. I'll tell you what, Derek, if I could circle back on the whole thing with Daniels, you're not going to stop him running the ball.
Yeah.
I've seen it all. I've seen it his LSU years. I've seen it here now. The hope is that you could find a way to kind of make him play backwards a little bit. We've seen that before with the quarterbacks that have that ability. But he's going to, if he feels like he can make it, if it doesn't look clean to him, he's going to run.
Let me ask you this, Brian. This is because you've watched him in college, and the style of runner that he is doesn't match. But it doesn't match his body type.
No,
he takes a lot of hits.
He doesn't know how to. He doesn't know how to slide.
Yeah, he doesn't know how to protect his body. Do you think he can hold up in an NFL career, continuing to do what he's done to this point?
No, he can't, because he takes some wicked ass hits and he gets up. But you wonder, early in the year he was dealing with the oblique or ribs or whatever it was. He's on the sidelines. They got a big pad around him, and he's waiting, and then they take off the pad and he goes and plays, and it affected the way he played. They were not as good offensively when he was banged up. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've seen him take some of the most violent shots, and I'm thinking he's not getting up. And he gets up, and he keeps playing.
Yeah.
But he's a slightly built guy. He's tall, he's thin, but he is so smooth running the ball. Mm-hmm. It's like he runs and it's 7 yards, and you're thinking that doesn't look like a 7-yard run.
Right.
But that's how he plays. And he's got that feel for how to, when he gets to the side, to get the first and get out of bounds, or get what he needs, turn back up inside, or make the read and all. So this is going to be a difficult matchup for the Cowboys again this week, and having to deal with a quarterback that runs. They haven't handled that very well this year.
All right, we're going to take our final break. We will come back. Let's talk a little Pro Bowl. Cowboys got some Pro Bowlers in here. We'll talk about that when we come back. DallasCowboys.com radio.
I got beef with it.
Aye.
If you can't be at the stadium, there's no better way to watch your Cowboys than on an LG OLED Evo TV. That's because everything you see is more lifelike. Every play, every hit. I mean, you might as well be on the sidelines. That's how clear it is. It's all thanks to LG's legendary technology. Perfect black, over 8.3 million self-lit pixels. No one comes close. LG OLED Evo is the best TV in the game for a reason. See for yourself at lg.com/OLED Evo.
They say champions are remembered, but legends are never forgotten. United Ag and Turf offers a winning lineup of John Deere equipment built to tackle any challenge on and off the field. Legendary John Deere tractors, combines, residential mowers, commercial mowers, compact construction equipment, Gator utility vehicles, and a full line of golf and sports turf equipment. United Ag and Turf, the official Ag and Turf equipment supplier of the Dallas Cowboys. Visit UnitedAgAndTurf.com to find a location near you.
If you shout, "How about them Cowboys?" you have that undeniable passion that's the heart of Cowboys Nation. And if you like to drink Dr. Pepper, you love the unique blend of its 23 flavors. Together, your one-of-a-kind fandom paired with the one-of-a-kind taste of a delicious ice-cold Dr. Pepper is the game day lineup that can't be beat. Better yet, gather your Cowboys and Dr. Pepper fan friends to watch the next game and crack open a delicious ice-cold Dr. Pepper for everyone. The wins will be even tastier. It's a pepper thing.
And we're going to overtime.
Erica, how much have I spent on concessions?
For questions about their money, Dallas Cowboys fans can turn to Erica, the virtual financial assistant in the Bank of America mobile banking app. Learn more at bankofamerica.com/Erica by your side. Bank of America, official bank of the Dallas Cowboys. Erica responses may vary. Digital tools featured require downloading the mobile banking app and may only be available on select mobile devices. Erica is a mobile feature only available in the English language. Your chat may be recorded and monitored for quality assurance. Message and data rates and additional terms may apply. Bank of America, N.A., member FDIC.
Todd thought it would be secure to jog in the cheetah savanna. Todd believed the big cat repellent he bought online was reliable. And now, Todd is trying to be faster than this cheetah that can run 80 miles per hour. But the good news is, Todd has AT&T 5G that is fast, reliable, and secure. And he learned the best thing to do is stop running and toss her the backpack with the beef stew. AT&T 5G. Fast, reliable, secure.
5G requires compatible plan and device. 5G may not be available in your area. See att.com/5G for you for details.
Back to the break.
AT&T connecting changes everything.
Welcome back. It is the final segment of the break, live from the SWBC Mortgage Studios at the Star. Let's talk Pro Bowl. Cowboys get 5 players into the Pro Bowl. There are only, I think I heard this morning, there were only 4 teams with more Pro Bowl selections than the Dallas Cowboys, which is pretty remarkable to say that they've had the year that they have. But Tyler Smith, CeeDee Lamb, Micah Parsons, Brandon Aubrey, and Kevontae Turpin all make the Pro Bowl. Any surprises for you guys, either with guys that got in or maybe even some guys that you thought should have gotten in that did not?
Give credit to where credit's due. I'll start there with Kevontae Turpin getting in. I think that's very well deserved. I think he's the best return specialist in the league. He'll be a first-team All-Pro. Looking at CD, the year he had, it's great. Micah, that's great. Everything. Why is Jordan Lewis not in the Pro Bowl? What is this? What is this? Okay, all right. We got some numbers. I'm about to go a little sicko. Can I go sicko for a little bit?
Sure, go for it.
So four corners made the Pro Bowl in the NFC. Of those 4 corners stacked up with Jordan Lewis, Jordan Lewis allowed the second least amount of receiving yards to those guys. I'll put that with the caveat that he got credited for that 86-yard touchdown in Washington.
He did.
I do not believe that should be the case.
He did.
Right.
Yep.
But that's what Pro Football Focus gave him, so we're going to give it to him here. But if you want to throw that caveat in, sure. And there could be some caveats with some of these other guys. We'll put that there. When it comes to missed tackles, third least.
I don't think Next Gen gave him that. I think they gave that one to
well, then there
Hooker.
we go.
Just another reason to stick with Next Gen.
Right.
I think Hooker,
they're winning.
I think Hooker got that one in Next Gen.
It should have been Hooker. It should have been Hooker, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Missed tackles.
For the sake of the story, it should have been
Hooker. For the sake of the story, it's Hooker. Missed tackles, third least out of these guys. We're talking Byron Murphy in Minnesota, J.C. Horn for Carolina, Jalen Johnson for the Bears, Devin Witherspoon for the Seahawks. Now, if it's a situation where they can only get in one nickel corner and they put in Devin Witherspoon over Jordan Lewis, I still don't agree with that. I don't agree with it. We're looking at Devin Witherspoon giving up 536 yards through the air compared to Jordan Lewis's 405. Byron Murphy gave up 720. Like, what are we talking about here?
Yeah.
Who's watching the film? Who's making these decisions?
What?
Put Jordan Lewis in. And DeMarvion Overshown. But
Can
put Jordan
I
Lewis
complicate your argument a little bit?
Absolutely, please.
Did you ever look at yards per yards per rep? The reason why
Yards
I say
per
that,
reception?
Well, no, more. I'm trying to figure out how you can do it as the number of yards they gave up based on the number of targets they got. Because as a nickel corner, maybe he played less reps than some of the guys that played on the outside, which may have meant that he gave up fewer yards. I'm just trying to see if that made a difference in the numbers that you were quoting there.
I will say, of the 5 that we're talking about here, he had the second least amount of targets.
Okay.
Jalen Johnson was the only one that had a lesser amount of targets.
Yeah,
Jalen Johnson's the best corner in the NFL, in my opinion. I'm not arguing Jalen Johnson here. I'm arguing Byron Murphy and Devin Witherspoon. I think Jordan Lewis is better than those 2 guys. I think he had a better year than those 2 guys. It's my opinion.
Hey, I'll tell you this. Regardless of whether they made the Pro Bowl or not, and maybe he still gets in. You know, sometimes you'll have guys that can't go or whatever. But regardless of that, what we know is this was, in my opinion, the best year he's had in his career, which is something to say at this stage of his career to still be ascending. I think it's been a phenomenal year for him. So I think all the accolades are due and they're warranted. It's just when you start getting into this, you're really splitting hairs when you start talking about Pro Bowl
I don't think
selections.
he's ever been in the Pro Bowl conversation.
I don't think so.
In his career so far. So to your point, it is very impressive that we are actually having this conversation about him and the way that he's overcome everything that he's overcome and gotten to this point. So maybe that's something to keep an eye on with backups and what do they call them? Replacements. Because I know CeeDee Lamb, I'm sure, I would imagine he doesn't go.
But you know, that's the thing now. Now that there's not an actual game, I do wonder if more guys will be like, I'll show up to be able to do tug of war, or I'll just show up to wear a ball cap and just like hang out with the guys. So I think it's probably going to be a lot of guys. I don't know if there'll be a lot of guys unless you literally have to have surgery or you got some other commitment you got to go to. I mean, it's a free week to go hang out with the other guys around the league. So my guess is that there will be a lot of people that probably show up regardless of their injury status. Maybe.
CD will probably get replaced.
You think he just don't want to care? He just doesn't care. Doesn't want to go.
Well, it's the
I can
shoulder.
imagine playing tug of war.
Yeah. No, but I'm saying he might still go. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah, he'll
because
still go,
because
but
there
he
is
can still
no
be replaced.
game.
He can still be replaced.
Will
if
they
he
do? They
goes.
do that? Like I guess that's the point. Like, will they replace him for?
Yeah, there was a player a couple of years ago. I forget who, but he had just had a ankle surgery and he was on the sideline and crutches. Like, dude, go.
But is that still when they're having games though? Like that's what I'm saying. Now that there's not games, and does everybody do something in some of the competition type stuff?
I believe so.
Because there's even a game show this year. So you don't have to necessarily.
Be smart.
Yeah, you don't necessarily have to actually do anything physical to be a part of all of Pro Bowl week, right?
They should just do like a 3-on-3 basketball tournament.
That's the last thing GMs around the league want to see.
Oh no, let's bring back sand football.
That's
like,
the last.
Somebody wrecked their knee again.
Yeah, somebody wrecked his knee at the sand football.
Robert
game.
Edwards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can
you imagine Justin Jefferson running point? Oh my gosh.
I think it's a good showing for the Cowboys.
Of course, he's an LSU guy running point. What are you talking about, bro?
After all that's happened this year, for them to get 5 guys in, and I love it for Brandon Aubrey. I think it's well deserved, and I think it's not even close. He's the best kicker in the NFL, and if I could get him at Texas, I would try very hard to do that if he's got some eligibility left.
I texted you that after the game. I said, congratulations. I think Aubrey's off next week. You can maybe use him.
No, I literally was like, does he have any eligibility left?
It's funny, though,
nice.
when you get these kickers, and it comes down to it's like a 48-yard field goal or a 38-yard field goal, and you shouldn't even be thinking about it.
Right.
You should think about celebrate. And now the things are hooking and hitting off the uprights, and you're like, it's 38 damn yards. What are we doing?
If you can't do
what are we doing here?
38-yard kick, then what? Yeah, what are we doing?
I mean, we need to spend some NIL money on kickers.
Exactly.
If that's what we're going to do, let's Like, hey, listen, I'm sorry.
We will contribute to the cause.
I'm sorry, backup quarterback, dude. You're not getting $1 million. We're going to pay our kicker.
Tell me where to send my money. I'm sending my money. Like, I want a kicker. Give me a kicker. A reliable
that would have been awful to lose that game twice yesterday for Texas. If either one of those kicks, I mean, you lose that game and you drove into position both times and you miss. I mean, that would have been a hard way to lose.
Oh,
a football.
yeah.
For Arizona State, it was a hard way to lose the game, too.
Yeah.
4th and 15. What are you doing?
I watched the game from Sidecar Social over here in the Star District, support the Star District. And whatever that field goal doinked off the upright to end the game, you would have thought that, something happened in there. You would have thought like somebody passed out. They're like, oh my God. But the 4th and 13, I was like, this is over. This is it. That's it.
I honestly, I'd gotten to a point where I was already thinking, okay, how am I going to handle this? Because we're going to lose this game, and I know I'm going to start getting the texts and the phone calls. You all right? And should I respond, or should I just ignore everybody? Should I turn off my phone and just walk away? And then obviously, everything happens from that point, and it's like, okay, great, we won. But
Look,
man, that was
I know this isn't talking Longhorns, but sending 7 on 4th and 13.
Thank you.
What are you doing?
Thank you.
What are you doing?
Honestly, we hadn't necessarily picked up, like when they said pressure, they had gotten there and they created some problems for us. I get the point of what they were trying to do.
I do too.
It just didn't work.
2 stupid pills and a cup of Gatorade. Happens every game.
Tell you what.
We're moving on.
Jim, hand me my 2 stupid pills and a cup of Gatorade, please.
But we are moving on, Longhorns, to the semifinals.
Say no to drugs. Say no to drugs.
Say no. Say
I
no to
appreciate
stupid
you guys
pills.
joining us. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll wrap this thing up. It'll be our final show of this season. Till then, for Nick Harris, Bryan Broaddus, and Ambar Garcia, I'm Derek Eagleton. This has been The Break live on DallasCowboys.com radio.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys?